Hey guys, Justin Scott here, and welcome to my team builder exercise lesson. These are exercises that I use to build the relationship between my limbs. So I call them team builder exercises because it's kind of like the kind of thing you might do if you work for a company and they maybe get a bunch of teams that are doing different things, and they maybe have like a day where they do some games or events or some challenges. And your team has to figure out how to work together to win different games or challenges, and they might call them team builder exercises. And it's a great way to figure out what the strengths and weaknesses of the people in the group are, and and then figure out how to work together. So I essentially want to do that for my limbs. I'm thinking almost like, I'm the boss and I've got 4 employees, and they're all doing slightly different jobs, but they have to be able to coordinate together to do what I need them to do, to play grooves and fills and all of that. So I want to find the strengths and weaknesses and try to kind of fix those and make sure that my left hand doesn't have a problem playing with my right foot or something like that. So there's a number of different exercises I'm going to take you through. And for the most part, some of these seem kind of basic. On paper, they're very basic, but you realize that they can actually be quite challenging when you sit down and try to do them. So let's go ahead and jump on in with the first exercise. First thing I like to do, and this is typically kind of how I start every day when I practice, is I do a lot of unison strokes. So there's a couple different ways that I do this. If you play like double bass pedals, or 2 bass drums, you can do everything with the bass drums. My left foot is basically always playing a hi-hat. So to start, I'm going to play the hi-hat with my other 3 limbs. We're going to play 4 limb unison strokes, and all I'm going to do is play unison single strokes, and I'm going to slowly speed up and slow down. And the idea is I want to be able to speed up and slow down without any flamming happening. I don't want notes happening slightly off from each other. I want to make sure all 4 of my limbs are comfortable playing it at the exact same time with no flamming, and I need to be able to speed up and slow down. And that can be really weird, especially slowing down. Sometimes people struggle with slowing down and staying accurate. But I'm trying to kind of work on a bunch of different tempo possibilities with one exercise. So I'm just going to play on my stack, kick, snare, and left foot, and slowly speed up and slow down. And typically I'll do that for a good minute or 2 every day. Just speed up and slow down. Maybe see how long I can hold those fast tempos before it starts to fall apart. But oftentimes when I do that, I'm just going to have my left foot keep time. So my left foot's usually just a timekeeper, and then my other limbs are playing through the actual notes that I want to play, the unison strokes. So I might just play, for instance, with like 1/8 notes on my left foot, and then think of what I'm playing with the other 3 limbs as 16th note. I don't know about everyone else, but for me, it was a huge help, especially with my bass drum, to get to the point where I could play at the exact same time as my hands. Especially like my left hand, it was kind of weird for a while to play the kick with my left hand, because you're so used to playing patterns where the kick and snare are playing opposite each other. But getting my left hand in particular comfortable playing with my right hand, and especially playing like different dynamic levels. Maybe my left hand's playing ghost notes, but my right foot's playing like, normal volume. It seems so simple until you try it and you realize, okay, I actually have to think about that a little bit. But by working on unison strokes, it makes it easier later to split things up. So for instance, if I can play this and play them at the same time, I've trained my foot to play at that exact tempo as my hands. So technically, it should be easier to split them up and play opposite each other, right? So like. And I always struggled with playing singles between my kick and my hands until I started doing a lot of those unison strokes. But obviously, if you can get all four limbs involved, make sure that you can accurately play them together, even though you're speeding up and slowing down. I think that's a really good exercise to start with. Next exercise, we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to play a double stroke. So we're basically going to play the first like 2-note partial of the 3-note grid. So we're basically, if you think of it as triplet, we're playing 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and we're just going to play all four limbs playing that. And again, I'm gonna just play slow to start and then speed up, and then you get faster and things might get off a little bit. For me, the thing that always gets off is my left foot because my left foot in general is not playing doubles a lot, except for when I do this kind of thing. So my left foot tends to get off. So let's go ahead and try that one. And then just like before with the single strokes, I'm just going to have my left foot play something else. So I could think of it as triplet and have my left foot just play quarter notes with it, or I could think of this as like 16th note. In that case, we would be basically playing kind of like dotted eighth, like 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1. So my left foot might be playing eighth notes while I play this. And again, you're just looking for that accuracy no matter what speed you get to. You're going to hit certain tempos where things get off, and it's just about trying to control everything. And so it's a great thing to, just spend a few minutes on each day just kind of chipping away at these. The next one, the third exercise, is the same concept, but now I'm going to use a 5-note partial. So basically like a standard 5 rhythm would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're just playing a single and then a double. And my left foot's always the one to get off, so I'm going to play like I did before. I'll just play this as 8th notes, and I'll put this 5-note grouping into 16th note. So it'll be like 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E, that kind of thing. So let's give it a try. Slowing it down can really be weird. That's where, usually it's easy to start getting off. But, those slower tempos are really important. Make sure you have just as much control playing these slow as you do fast. All right, the fourth exercise is going to still be 4 limb unisons, but now we're focusing on dynamics. So this is one that on paper seems pretty easy, but like the first time you try it, it might actually be harder than you think. And I spend a little bit of time working on this kind of thing every time I sit down and practice, because it can be kind of deceptive, and you might think this is pretty easy and you've got control over it, and then you try it and it doesn't work so well. So basically I'm going to play 4 limb unisons again, but I'm going to play everything really quiet. I'm going to play these little tiny tap strokes. And so each limb is playing really quietly. And then I'm going to raise and lower the volume of just one limb at a time. And so my right hand is going to get louder and louder, and then eventually quieter and quieter. And the goal is for me, I'm trying not to let the volume of the other 3 limbs change. And once I raise and lower the volume with that limb, I'm going to move to another limb. And eventually each limb is going to, by itself, raise and lower in volume. So let's give it a try. That for me is a super important thing to be able to do. I think dynamic coordination is kind of an underutilized thing. It's easy to get so focused on the coordination, the stacked coordination you're working on, or the linear coordination you're working on, and it's really easy to overlook the dynamic coordination of what you're playing. And your ability to maybe play notes at the same time but have limbs play at different dynamic levels, or like playing accents with one hand while not playing accents with the other. Like, for instance, I'll play just taps with my hands, and then my right hand will play an accent every other note without my left hand changing at all. At least that's the goal. And when you first try to do that, your left hand really wants to try to do the same motion. And so spending that time working on the dynamic levels, maybe try doing the opposite now. That kind of thing. Or I could play accent every other note over here, so like groups of 2, and then accent every third note with my left hand. So again, we're just playing unison strokes. It's pretty easy, but I'm going to play accents in different places. So right, or switch them. That kind of thing is really challenging if you haven't done it before, but it makes a huge difference in how your groove is going to feel when you play, because the dynamics are a really, really big part of what makes a groove sound good or bad. So that's why these unison strokes with dynamics, just start with one limb at a time, and then you can be creative, adding in rudiments and things if you want with dynamics. All right, exercise 5, we're still playing 4 limb unison strokes, but now I'm going to work on changing note rates. So I'm going to switch from 8th note to 8th note triplet to 16th note, back to 8th note triplet, and I'm going to play one full measure of each to start. So going from 8th note to 8th note triplet, 16th note, and then back to 8th note triplet. And I find that's a great way to obviously get your limbs working together, and then you can also work on your ability to change note rates. You might find that certain limbs don't like changing note rates like that. And then obviously the faster you get, the more challenging it gets. And so I'm gonna bump up the tempo a little bit, and then I'll just keep time with my left foot and do the same exercise. So something to chip away at, really hard once you get faster tempos, it's hard to keep that control, especially because you're playing, 3 or 4 limbs at one time. All right, the next one would be to play the same thing, but now I'm just gonna play half a bar of each, so 2 beats of each note rate. And then lastly, I'm gonna play just 1 beat of each note rate. And this can be, really weird because you have to make decisions really quickly, which is why it's really worth working on playing, having to switch the rate every beat. So give those a try. I really dig those. And you can obviously add different rates if you want to get comfortable with quintuplet or septuplet. You can add those in there. But yeah, all 4 limbs playing at the same time. It seems really simple, but it can be kind of tricky to get comfortable with. All right, the next exercise is playing through grids using the 4-limb unison strokes. So it's really a good idea to get comfortable with different grids. So you have like the 3-note grid, 4-note grid. Like a 4-note grid, for instance, you could think of as 16th notes. So basically the grid is just all the different partials that you can play. So you could play like just the first note of the grid, just the number. You could play just the E, like 1 E and a 2 E and a, just the and so on. It's all the different places that are possible to play a note within 4 possible places or 3 possible places. So for example, I could use the 4-note grid, thinking of it like 16th notes, and I'm just gonna play through the grid using these 4-limb unison strokes. And it's getting comfortable with having that space. I'm just gonna be listening to a quarter note click and getting used to hearing that space and counting out all the 16th notes in your head while you're playing and not getting off. It's a little weird. Especially if you're not like keeping time. If I'm keeping time with my left foot, it's a little bit easier, but I'm gonna try to play all 4, and I'm just gonna go through the 1 and the 2-note partials of the grid. So having all that space in there, especially if you slow it down, you really have to keep track of where you are. I think that kind of exercise is really valuable to get used to that space. And you're not actually playing anything on the quarter note, so you have to get used to just playing on E or just playing on anda or something. It's a weird thing to do, but it's great to do this with unison strokes if you can. Another exercise I like to do with these is play a Stanley Randolph exercise. So Stanley Randolph, big fan of his playing. I saw a video of him where he talked about playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2. So he would play it on his bass drum, like underneath a groove to warm up his foot. And basically what it is if you just play 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1. That whole thing adds up to 2 bars of 16th note. So it's like 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1. 1 and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1. And so it's a great thing to play with your bass drum, but there's other ways to use it. So I'm going to play that with the 4 limb unison strokes along with a click. Now I'll just keep time with my left foot and try to play the other 3 limbs a little bit faster. There's a ton of ways you can use that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2 idea to build coordination. I like to use that in a lot of ways, but this is definitely one of my favorites. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start working on 2 limbs against 2 limbs. So you could play your hands against your feet, or you can play right side against left side, or I can play my right hand with my left foot, left hand with my right foot, which is the weirdest one to play, but there's all kinds of benefits to being able to do that, kind of get both sides of your brain connected a little bit better. But in order to do this, we're going to use singles, doubles, and paradiddles. So I'm going to play measures of 3, 4, and I'm playing 16th notes. So for one measure, I'm going to be playing 12 notes. I think of it as 3 groups of 4 notes. So you're playing single, 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 and then double, 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 and then paradiddle, paradiddle, paradiddle. And then I would lead through the whole thing with my left hand. Single, 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 double, 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 paradiddle, paradiddle, paradiddle. So the idea is to play all the way through that. Obviously, it's great to just do it with the hands to get started. Make sure you can just play it, with your hands first, and then you can start trying to play that between the different limbs, like 2 against 2. So if I just play it with the hands, I'll play the time over here. So obviously, take your time, play it slow. Now I'm just going to play that between my hands together and my feet together. And again, if you want, you can eventually have your left foot play time. But for these, most of the time, I just try to play through them even if my left foot struggles. And then, the tempo is what can take a little while to build up, which is why really you should get comfortable with your hands with that singles, doubles, paradiddle exercise first. Now I'm going to try right side, left side. And the first time I tried doing some of these exercises, it was amazing how, maybe my left foot really doesn't like playing with my left hand like that, or you find these little problems, and that's why you're doing these. You're finding where you run into these coordination problems that your brain doesn't like, and then you have to kind of fix them. All right, now we'll try the really hard one, which is playing my right hand with my left foot and my left hand with my right foot. That's quite tricky to play if you've never done that, but I highly recommend spending some time with it because getting your left hand comfortable with your right foot is really useful. And then obviously there's cool stuff you can do if your right hand can play evenly with your left foot. All right, now we're going to do the note rate change exercise that we did earlier, but between hands together and feet together, or right side, left side. So I'm just going to do 2 beats of each, and we'll try this with a metronome. Now right side versus left side. And then right hand with left foot, left hand with right foot. Obviously, anytime you can work on changing note rates with something like that, I think it's a tremendous skill to have, to be able to switch rates whenever you want. So make sure you're spending a good deal of time switching between note rates. Get comfortable with switching between triplet and 16th note, or going into quintuplet. Whatever rates you want to play in, you should be able to kind of seamlessly transition between them. So making yourself do that with these kind of weird limb exercises is really, really useful. Another thing to try with the like 2 limbs versus 2 limbs thing is working on polyrhythms. So I could play like a 2-3 polyrhythm. My hands will play the 2 and my feet will play the 3. So that would look like this. So you can think of this 2 different ways. I can think of it, thinking more about the 2 that I'm playing, which would be basically thinking as like triplet. So I'd be thinking 1 and a 2 and a 1 and a 2 and a. And then my feet would be playing 1 and a 2 and a 1 and a 2 and a. Or I can think about the 3 that my feet are playing, and I would be thinking 8th notes. And my hands would be playing. And that's how you can kind of think of either or. So you want to be able to do both. If I turn on this 2-3 polyrhythm, I want to be able to think about the 2, and I want to be able to think about the 3. And then it's helpful to be able to switch. So now my hands will play the 3 and my feet will play the 2. And then if you can, get to the point where you can switch which limbs are doing which job. So I'm going to start with the hands playing 2, feet playing 3, and then the next measure they're going to switch. So that would look like this. And then do the same thing like right side, left side. And then I'll attempt to do right hand, left foot, left hand, right foot. We'll see how this goes. Anyway, that's a lot of fun. It's challenging to work on. You can find ways to play grooves and stuff with that. And then obviously you can work on other types of polyrhythms. You could go like 3 against 4. So if you want to do 3 against 4, then when you're counting the 3, you're thinking 16th notes. And the feet would be playing. If you want to think the 4, you're thinking triplets, like 8th note triplet, like. That's a great way to work on polyrhythms and also make sure that your limbs are really comfortable with each other and you're just building up the coordination between them. All right, the next exercise, we're going to play basically like 4-limb single strokes. So we're going to play just the right hand, then just the left foot, just the left hand, just the right foot. So this is a common exercise. I think a lot of people practice this, especially if you have double bass. It's kind of fun to play because you can get really fast and move it around the kit. But I find it really, really useful to practice this type of thing. So right, left, left, right. And when you get up to speed, obviously, it's challenging to keep it even, but that's kind of the idea. Spend a little bit of time trying to build up the tempo on it. And then obviously, if you want, you can take something like this and you can apply it to some like randomized notation that you might see in a book like The New Breed, or you could use that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2 exercise if you wanted. So I could play same order of notes, but I'm going to be thinking 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it'd be like. It's kind of fun to play with it in that way and get used to leaving some space, but I'm still technically playing the same pattern. Then I'm going to do the same thing with double stroke. So obviously it sounds a little weird on a hi-hat, but it's worth working on. If you have a double pedal, you can do it with that. And then the last one I like to do is taking the same concept and doing a paradiddle with it. So I'm playing the same order, still playing right hand, left foot, left hand, right foot, but I'm going to play the paradiddle pattern. So I'll have the pattern written out for you so you can see it, and I'll play it really slow. And that's a great way to start getting comfortable with the possibilities of like linear patterns. Make sure your limbs are comfortable playing opposite each other and in different orders. And then obviously you can speed it up. You could even add a backbeat and make it sound kind of like a groove. And you might be surprised how fast you learn how to play that. I've shown it to a number of students and they actually pick it up pretty quick because your brain already knows paradiddle. And so if you've played like right, left foot, left, right foot type stuff, and you already know paradiddle, you might actually learn that pretty quick and kind of be moving it around the kit. But that's a really fun exercise. I hope you dig that one. And then the last exercise that I'm going to show you has to do with dynamics again, and I'm going to be using prep strokes for this one. So if you've never worked on prep strokes, basically it's 4 different strokes that you can use to make sure that you're playing everything you would need to play dynamically. So if I want to play a loud note followed by a loud note, I want to play a full stroke. So I'm going to throw the stick down, play an accented note, and then it's going to come back up because now I need to play loud again. If I wanted to play a loud note and set myself up for a quiet note, I'm going to play a downstroke. So you start up here and then keep the stick down so now I can play quietly. If I want to play a quiet stroke and prepare my hand for another quiet stroke, then I'm just going to play taps. And then if I want to play a quiet stroke and prepare my hand for a loud stroke, I'm going to play an upstroke, which is a tap that comes up. So you have full, down, tap, up, full, down, tap, up. And so what I want to do with this is I'm going to play the 4 limb unisons again. My feet are going to play normal notes, but my hands are going to play through these prep strokes in different orders. And the idea is I want my hands to feel comfortable playing things like taps and upstrokes, even though my feet are playing regular volume notes. And it can be a little bit weird to play like an upstroke with a bass drum or something like that, because I'm barely playing that note coming up, but my bass drum is still loud. So getting comfortable with something like that can be a little bit weird. So I like to take these prep strokes and add them. So my feet are going to be playing regular volume, but my hands are going to be playing through prep strokes. So I'm going to start with full, down, tap, up. I'm going to play all 4 prep strokes in a row over my feet. For me at least, it took a little time for my feet to not, want to change volume with what my hands were playing. So that's kind of why I think it's a really good thing to work on, because if I'm sitting here playing a groove, I want for the most part, I want my bass drum to stay pretty solid, and I want my hands to be able to dynamically change. So like a good example, if I was playing paradiddle as a groove, so a paradiddle with prep strokes is down, up, tap, tap, down, up, tap, tap. So that upstroke, if I put a bass drum on the E, it's going to land with that upstroke. So doing that can feel a little funny. So that's why an exercise like this can be so useful for you. The next one, I'm just going to play down, tap, up. So just like kind of a molar, that kind of thing. Bass drum and hi-hat playing together. And then finally, I'm just going to play down, up. And that's it. So this is some of my favorite exercises that I use for warming up. It's also a great way to get new students to get comfortable with their limbs, figure out where their weak points are. You might find that you're able to fix some coordination issues that you're having. I like to practice a little bit of this type of thing every day. It's always part of my warm-up to practice this kind of thing. So I really hope you guys enjoy these exercises, and I look forward to hearing how you guys like these. Let me know in the comments section of the video. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed it. Talk to you next time.